Hello family, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lawrence if this is your first time here. This video is going to be part 2 of the video I published yesterday. So if you did not get the chance to watch the part 1, I have linked that video in the description. You can go ahead and click on the link that you find in the description so that you can get access to the part 1 of the video. So yesterday, after Dr. Brunsma had presented what the SDA Church and the Catholic Church can learn from each other, another SDA professor gave a response. And what I felt was that it looked like they were defending the Catholic Church. Yes, that is what I saw. It looked like they were defending the Catholic Church and attacking SDA beliefs. So I don't want to waste time. I want us to carefully listen to what the other professor said in his response to what Dr. Brunsma actually presented. So let's get into it.
And you've suggested to us a broad canvas for learning. In doing so, you've pushed us into uncomfortable territory and as you invite us to reevaluate some of our past attitudes. I would like to offer 4 brief reflections in response to some of the points that you make. They're not necessarily the most important points you've made, but these are my reactions. First of all, none of us are today unaware of the hypersensitivity surrounding your question. Today's venue highlights that. For many Adventists, this is a very uncomfortable topic. Historically speaking, why is that? The highly negative role of medieval Catholicism portrayed in the Great Controversy is no doubt a major source of the discomfort. But there are reasons that go deeper. At the end of your first edition, Dr. Brunsma, your very helpful book, as you noted, published by Andrews University Press, you conclude that Adventism has some unique features to its traditional anti-Catholicism. And you identify the role of both our Seventh-day Sabbath teaching and our sanctuary teaching as those 2 features. Could we push the implications of that observation even further? Is it not true that in these 2 distinctive doctrinal areas, we actually understand ourselves to be prophetically mandated through our preaching to specifically address and correct the unbiblical teaching of Catholicism? We've blamed Catholics, the papacy in particular, for changing the day of worship. And we believe that we are called to explain that and to proclaim the true Sabbath. John Andrews thought that he had found proof that the papacy had changed the day. In 1982, Review and Herald published a book of Adventist scholarship, up-to-date Adventist scholarship, that demonstrated that Andrews' conclusion was incorrect. The rise of first-day observance was much more complex. But even in our popular evangelism today, we still blame the papacy for the change of the Sabbath. In Daniel 8:13 and 14, we claim a mandate to preach the true understanding of the high priesthood of Christ and the heavenly sanctuary over against the Catholic teaching of the Mass. Thus, our negative perceptions of Catholicism lie very close to our core sense of identity and our sense of mission as Adventists. It seems to be part of our DNA. The discomfort with your suggestions about revisiting these attitudes perhaps is understandable. Does your presentation today, Dr. Brunsma, imply that we might need to move beyond the anti-Catholic undergirding mandates for these teachings? My second reflection concerns your observation in the first part of your talk that Catholicism has undergone major changes in recent times and that we must distance ourselves from the ideas as expressed in the Great Controversy, that the Catholic Church has not changed, that it's always been sinister and always will be. You quote from page 571 in Great Controversy. It has in fact been difficult for Adventists to acknowledge any changes in Catholicism because great controversy is so adamant that as an entity, the papacy does not and cannot change. But we were obliged to acknowledge some change, although we've been very discreet about the acknowledgement. The most recent revision made to the great controversy was made not in 1911, but in 1979. And it was made not in the text, but in the appendix. And it acknowledges Vatican II. On page 340, Ellen White makes the rather universal observation that the papal church withholds the Bible from the people. In the 1911 edition, there is a note at this point that points us to the appendix where we find documentation supporting that allegation. But in 1979, the White trustees authorised the adding of significant wording in explanation of Ellen White's statement because the statement was clearly no longer true. The appendix now reads, "The reader will recognise that the text of this volume was written prior to Vatican Council II, with its somewhat altered policies in regard to the reading of the scriptures. But in recent years, a dramatic and positive change has occurred in this respect." I believe that you might have had something to do with that change in the appendix. In the light of the ongoing changes flowing from Vatican II, could one suggest that the same note be at least cross-referenced to other passages in the book, the one that you cite particularly? Your talk today prompts the question, in fact, would it not be appropriate to make that concession note on page 340 more general in nature about the whole book, and that perhaps it should be incorporated into the introduction? My third reflection is prompted by your remark on page 5 that Adventists must constantly be reminded of how we're indebted to the Catholic Church in usually 6 or 7 different areas: theology, hymnody, music, etc. In my home church at Asia Hills, we enjoy several stained glass windows that portray biblical and Adventist themes. And of course, at Pioneer Memorial Church, there are many more stained glass windows. I'm sure no one stops to think that we have medieval Catholicism to thank for those stained glass windows. You observe that in many places in the world, Adventists and Catholics cooperate in healthcare and charitable work. You imply that it is possible to be ecumenical in spirit without necessarily being ecumenical organisationally. I can provide you with a couple of anecdotes to add to your database. During the late 1990s, my work required me to help prepare documentation needed for Australia's Avondale College's long and tortuous course to university status. The Opus D-sponsored Notre Dame University in West Australia had recently made that journey successfully. The Catholic legal firm which assisted Notre Dame were equally willing to share with Avondale their expertise and their experiences in helping us prepare documentation that eventually passed the test. Catholics are wise in these matters, and we can in fact learn from them. A couple of decades ago, our new Adventist college in Thailand was also negotiating its uncertain way through necessary government accreditation. Some Buddhist government officials did not look so favourably on yet another Christian higher education proselytising institution. The process was highly sensitive, required diplomatic skill and bureaucratic know-how, of which Adventists were in short supply. Catholic friends came to our aid. Reverend Buncha Sangharan, bless his great soul, was an ordained monk and rector of the Catholic University, Assumption University, in Bangkok, operated by the religious order, the Brothers of St. Gabriel. Brother Buncha made friends with our own president, Dr. Siraporn, saw our need, valued us. He saw us as partners in mission in a country in which 94% of the population was Buddhist and 5% Muslim, and Christians were about 1%. We were together a tiny minority and shared a deep sense of Christian mission. He spoke for us, advised us on approaches through the government Ministry of Higher Education, and connected us with important people in the Ministry of Education. He also gladly served as a member of our college governing council for several years. There are not many Adventist colleges, I would guess, who have been blessed to have such a gracious and wise counsellor as we had in Brother Buncher. My final reflection has two strands to it, and they also relate to your observation on page 2, where you comment on Ellen White characterising the Catholic Church as having the appearance of a chameleon but retaining the invariable venom of the serpent. And you suggest that this is dated and no longer helpful. Recently, in another place, Adventist Today, I think, you were critiquing what you see as a problematic misuse of the book Great Controversy in a mass circulation campaign, and you made a similar observation about this not being relevant in its 19th century dress. You argued that the Great Controversy belongs to another age, very different from the times in which we now live. Yet at the same time, you emphasise that the theme of the book is as relevant now as it was when Ellen White and others wrote about it in a way that their Victorian contemporaries could relate to. You suggest that its message must now be communicated in a language and with arguments that reflect our 21st century reality. That second observation resonated strongly with me just recently when I read, last week, an article from the US Catholic, which had been reprinted in the October issue of Christian Century, entitled Faith at the Expense of Freedom, written by digital edition editor Rebecca Weiss. In that article, Rebecca Weiss heavily critiques the ultra-conservative wing of her church, which takes what they call an integralist perspective on the role of the Catholic Church and the state. Integralists are ultra-conservative Catholics who believe that almost in medieval fashion, the state and the church should be integrated in a way that the state and its laws and policies should be the embodiment of traditional Catholic Christian values and practices. Integralists assert that democracy is a failed experiment, she writes. And she reports on the 2022 conference called Restoring the Nation, held at Franciscan University of Steubenville in Ohio. At that conference, J.D. Vance delivered the keynote address and endorsed the integralist Kevin Roberts' call for a second American Revolution, which is outlined in detail in Project 2025. Catholic ultra-conservatives have been fantasizing about such an outcome.
So, friends, that was the response he gave. And, friends, in his presentation, or let me say, in his response, he made a statement that the SDA Church, or we blame the Catholic Church for changing the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. So the question I asked myself was, has he not read from some of the Catholic publication about their claim to change the solemnity of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday? Has he not read that? That is why, friends, I said it looks like they were actually defending the Catholic Church. So I'm going to read some statements from Catholic publications that actually tell the fact that the Catholics claim the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. So I'm going to read these statements right now. So the first one is coming from the Convert's Catechism. I hope you are familiar with this particular one, right? And they asked a question, which is the Sabbath day? And they responded, Saturday is the Sabbath day. And another question comes, why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? And the answer, we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Did you hear that? So is it the SDA Church that is saying this on the Catholic Church falsely, or the Catholic Church itself is claiming the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. The change of the solemnity of Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. Let us see another one. This is coming from Catholic Encyclopedia, Volume 4, page 153. It says, the church, that is the Church of Rome, after changing the day of rest from the Jewish Sabbath, or seventh day of the week, to the first, made the third commandment refer to Sunday as a day to be kept holy as the Lord's day. This is what the Catholic Church is saying, friends. And the fourth commandment actually says we should keep the Sabbath day holy. But because they have altered the commandment, you see what they are saying? Let's look at another one. This is coming from James Cardinal Gibbons, The Faith of Our Fathers, page 89. It says, you may read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and you will not find a single line authorizing the sanctification of Sunday. The scriptures enforce the religious observance of Saturday. So is it the SDA church that is blaming the Catholic Church for changing the Sabbath? They themselves said it. They themselves said it. Another one. Catholic Record, September 17, 1893. Sunday is founded not on scripture, but on tradition, and is distinctly a Catholic institution. Did you hear that? Let me read another one. Canon and Tradition, page 263. It says, the authority of the church, that is the Church of Rome, could therefore not be bound to the authority of Scripture, because the church had changed the Sabbath into Sunday, not by command of Christ, but by its own authority. Is the SDA church saying this, or the Catholics themselves? The last one, friends, the last one. Catholic Press, Sydney, Australia, August 1900. Sunday is a Catholic institution, and its claim to observance can be defended only on Catholic principles. From beginning to end of Scripture, there is not a single passage that warrants the transfer of weekly public worship from the last day of the week to the first. Catholic Press. So, friends, there are some statements made by the Church of Rome that claim the responsibility of the change of Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. So why is the SDA professors saying that the church, the SDA church or Adventists, blame the Catholics for changing the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday? So, friends, I want to conclude with this. I can see that there are some individuals within the church that are actually promoting Vatican. They are promoting the Catholic Church within the SDA church, because what I just saw, friends, and also what I published yesterday, testify that these men are promoting the Catholic Church within the SDA church. And at the same time, they are attacking some of the beliefs of the church. So I want to pause here and invite your comment. You have listened to what the presenter actually said. You listened to yesterday what Dr. Bruinsma also said. And so, friends, you can also comment. I will put the link to the full video, the whole video without my thoughts, in the description. So if you want to watch their whole presentation about what the two churches can learn from each other, you can find that in the description of this video. All right. So, friends, I want to pause here and come again tomorrow, God willing. This is your brother Lawrence. We are not here to attack anybody. We are here to present and comment on issues. All right. So don't see this as an attack. No, that's not what we do. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thanks for watching. God bless you.